Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. The great conflict in Wano is now over, but with the beginning of this new arc, we see that again, there are big battles that are going to be coming into play. Old enemies are returning, and new allies are emerging. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the events that could happen in these next few chapters of One Piece, which enemies the Straw Hats will face soon, and we're also going to talk about the Straw Hats' new allies that have been coming out of the woodwork. But before we get into these expectations, if you're new to the channel, or even if you watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, or even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another favorite of yours with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into this video. So my friends, in the previous chapter, we saw that Bonnie has temporarily allied herself with the Straw Hats, because otherwise she would be alone on Egghead Island. And after all, she is going after the most famous scientist in the world, and doing that alone would be risky, so she's allied herself with Luffy, Jinbei, and Chopper to find him. As revealed by Bonnie, her father Kuma was turned into a robot completely, so she has unfinished business with Vegapunk. Now we don't know if she's there to take his life, or if she just wants him to find a way to make Kuma regain his humanity. But this issue that Bonnie has with Vegapunk is going to have to wait for a little bit, because at the end of the previous chapter, we saw that CP0 is heading to Egghead Island, very island where the Straw Hats are currently gathered. And this means that the Straw Hats will again face the same members that they once knew as CP9. But as we've seen, the world government may be at a disadvantage, because we've only seen 3 members of CP0 going to Karakuri Island, namely Rob Lucci, Stassi, and Kaku. And even if these members of CP0 have gotten stronger, they're hardly going to be able to face off against the Straw Hats, although they probably will still be caught off guard because they don't know the Straw Hats are currently on the island. This means that there's likely gonna be a crossing of the Straw Hats and CP0 at some point, because CP0, although they're not there to fight them and that's not their main objective, they're there and they intend to destroy all the punk robots so that they can find the real Vegapunk and take his life. Because the world government seems to fear the knowledge that he has. Because Vegapunk not only knows a lot about the world government, but he also has the knowledge of very far advanced technologies, as well as devil fruits and genetic alteration. So the world government may fear that Vegapunk could turn against them in the future. So they've ordered CP0 to take Vegapunk's life. A sincerely complicated mission, especially since the Straw Hats and Vegapunk could team up to defeat them all. This makes the mission for CP0 much more difficult, as they would have to not only defeat the 6 punk robots who have insanely high strength and possibly really powerful weapons we haven't seen yet, they're also going to have to take out the Straw Hats. If they can't overcome these obstacles in the end, it'll become impossible for them to get to the original Vegapunk that is probably hidden and protected someplace inside the island. We also have to remember that very near the island of Vegapunk, we also have a second island that is the base of the Navy, and inside this base we have quite a few members of the Organization of Sword, a hand-picked group of powerful Marines led by, at least for what it seems, Garp. This creates a situation where CP0 could reach out to this nearby Marine base and call for backup from these Sword members, because they would need the support for them to get help with the Straw Hats while they go on the objective of looking for the real Vegapunk. And in this way, it would band together the Marines that are there for Sword and CP0. But this also creates an interesting opportunity where we could see Kobe and the members of Sword show their true colors, because many have speculated out in the community that Sword is a secret organization inside the world government and Marines that's trying to evoke change for the good. But moving on to some other expectations. In these next chapters, we'll also probably have some information about what has happened to Sabo, and possibly even a conversation between the revolutionaries debating on what might have happened to him. Because right before the incident that happened in Lelouch, Sabo had relayed some extremely important information, such as the information that there is somebody sitting on the empty throne, something that at first is one of the most worrying pieces of intelligence that anyone could get their hands on. You see, the empty throne is meant to symbolize that no one person rules the world, as in fact the 20 kingdoms that make up the world government. But if there is somebody and the empty throne is not in fact empty, this means that there is somebody running the world of One Piece above all others. This someone could also be above the Gorosei, who are supposed to be the 5 most important people who have the greatest influence in the world. So just because there's someone already above them, this means that there's a lot more to be learned, especially if it gets out to the world. With this in mind, it's really likely that Dragon'll send somebody to investigate further about who this person is and who in fact is sitting on the throne, and they may even dispatch others to look for where Sabo is, because he may have seen the face of this mysterious person. So the possibility of Dragon sending anyone to Marijois is going to be a remote one, because even if they wanted to send someone to find out who the person on the throne is, Marijois is extremely well protected, and it may be that Sabo is the only person outside of the Gorosei that have ever seen Imsama sitting on the throne. In fact, the only reason why Sabo managed to see him and then escape was because even though he was confronted by two admirals, being Fujitora and Ryokugyu, Sabo was able to escape because they were incapable of causing any damage to the Holy Land and other celestial dragons around them. This means that the admirals were severely limited in their powers because they didn't want to hit any civilians or anyone else, and this gave Sabo the direct advantage he needed to be able to escape the battle, giving him the opportunity to get away from Marijois. This type of escape would be nigh impossible again, because not only was the fact that they were near any of the world nobles, but this also happened during the revelry, which is a thing that doesn't happen all the time. So with the 20 representative of the ruling kingdoms, the admirals really couldn't cut loose and go after the invaders with all the force they needed. Therefore, Dragon may not be able to send anyone right now to try and identify who Imsama is, because it'd be extremely dangerous. The only way they'll ever find out who this person is and perhaps what they look like is gonna be through Sabo. But again, it's still anyone's guess because we don't know if Sabo actually got to see Imsama. He just said that there was somebody sitting on the throne, not able to give any other information about who this person was. But with all that said, there are some possibilities that we could look at. The first would be that Sabo actually saw Imsama's true identity, but because there's someone who has remained hidden for so many years, it would be impossible for Sabo to be able to actually identify who this being could be. But that wouldn't make it impossible for Dragon to know who this person is through the description Sabo told him, because Dragon appears to have some very deep knowledge about the events that took place in the past, as well as the world government as a whole. So the possibility exists, however remote, that Dragon may have seen Imsama or even heard stories about this mysterious character's deeds, giving him the ability to know exactly what Imsama intends to do. So for now, the only way that they may be able to find out about who this person is actually going after and finding Sabo, because they want to be able to get the information straight from the observer. Another possibility is that Sabo only saw the silhouette of this character as we see in the appearances, making it impossible to identify, but just knowing that there's a person sitting on the throne makes it important information. However, for us, the reader, it's going to make it all the more difficult for us to ever learn Imsama's identity, further prolonging the revelation about who this person is and what impact they want to have on the world until their identity is finally revealed. So currently, it may be Sabo's rescue that's going to be the first option, because without the information that Sabo has and everything he witnessed, even in what we just saw happen on the island of Leloucha, the world government is going to have more information, and the revolutionaries may not have all the information they need to take their next move. But through Sabo's detailed information, Dragon will be able to ascertain that the world government perhaps possesses one of the three ancient weapons, thus making the quest to destroy the world government even more complicated. For if the world government ever learned the location of the Revolutionary Army, they could easily destroy the island with this ancient weapon. So Dragon may have to act calmly for now, without doing anything that draws too much attention or reveals their location. Another event that we hope to see soon in these next chapters is what Teach plans to do with Kobe, because as we know, Teach recently captured Kobe after the attack on the island of Amazon women. We don't know what Teach's objective is with the capture of this sailor, but it could be something very important, because currently Aokiji is on Teach's side, not acting as a pirate, but just his ally. However, if Teach ends up taking Kobe to the pirate island, otherwise known as Hachinosu or Beehive Island, this would make it possible for Kobe to find Aokiji, so they could talk about the Navy and also about Blackbeard's pirates' next goal. But Aokiji might try to get to Kobe, get him to switch sides, or use him for some purpose that Teach and Aokiji might be thinking about, because Kobe, after all, has some fame within the Marines, being considered a hero of a certain island. Perhaps they even hope to turn Kobe to their side so he can serve as a spy or something similar. But that would be really near impossible because of Kobe's heart and his sense of justice, and how he wants to change the Navy and what he thinks about pirates, making it all the more difficult for Kobe to become an infiltrator and spy for Blackbeard. We've also stated in some of our other videos that there's also a possibility that Kobe could be used as bait to capture a certain Marine or even a certain pirate, because Kobe has connections with some very important characters in our story. These people could include Garp, who's still considered the hero of the Navy, being the one who had managed managed to face off against Goldie Roger several times. He could be after somebody like X-Drake, who is a Marine disguised as a pirate who has a very important ancestral Zoan fruit, a fruit that is very powerful and Teach may be looking to steal. Luffy is another one of the current Yonkos also possessing a very powerful fruit which Teach may also be interested in. But the possibility of attracting Luffy, at least at this point, would be really difficult, if not impossible, because Luffy is on Egghead Island, and he is about to start the first arc of this next and final saga of One Piece, of course set to learn so many more secrets about the world and as well as devil fruits. Also, considering the fact that we have CP0 inbound, it's going to be up to Luffy and the Straw Hats to protect Vegapunk and manage to inquire this information from the great scientist. But as told by Helmeppo, no Marine can go to save Kobe right now. But one last thought that we'd like to leave you with is, what if our sword members, including Helmeppo, go to the island to try and help CP0, only to find out that Kobe's best friend, and really the one person that the Marines can't stop to go after and save Kobe, what if they end up relaying the message? This could set up the possibility of, in the next arc, that Luffy will go after Teach to try and rescue Kobe, thus making the new arc after Egghead Island the great conflict between the two Yonko, the one that we've been expecting, and would end up being a bigger battle than the one we saw in Marineford, thus kicking off the first in a series of battles that has to take place, not only to decide who will eventually get to claim the One Piece treasure, but also who will bring the new dawn to the world. But with all that said, we'd love to know what you think about it now. How do you think these next couple of chapters of One Piece are going to play out? And do you think we could have a situation where the nearby sword members are called in by CP0 and it's them that tell Luffy about what's happening to Kobe? Also, what do you think Teach is after? Do you think he's after just powerful devil fruits to power up his crew? Or do you think he's after a specific devil fruit? Let us know what you think in the comments below. But as we wrap up our video for now, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. And make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.